Tread Lightly is an outdoor ethics education organization. We're designed to maintain public access through education and stewardship. So mostly for motorized trails, we want to advocate for public land access and the road systems that give us that access. So one of the ways that we tell people and teach people about our ethics and how to be responsible in public lands is the TREAD principles. TREAD is an acronym. It stands for travel responsibly, respect the rights of others, educate yourself, avoid sensitive areas, and do your part. If people practice those principles, we'll have better opportunities to recreate in public lands and more beautiful places to enjoy. A great example of traveling responsibly is taking a map with you that shows the designated routes and make sure that you're on those routes. You can do that with your GPS, or there's a number of apps that'll kind of help you do that. Also, make sure you're safe, right? So we want to have a helmet, make sure your riders have it too. So when we're respecting the rights of others, which is the second TREAD principle, we want to just understand that these are mixed-use public lands and there's a lot of people out here that are enjoying their type of recreation. Slow down when you're going through camps, that's a big one if you're in a motorized vehicle. A smile goes a long way as well, don't forget to smile. I feel like a lot of times people are kind of in their own minds and look up and wave to people and make sure that you are that ambassador that we talk about when you're out there doing whatever it is that you like. Educate yourself about the capabilities of your vehicle, about the places that you're riding in, and about some of the safety gear and things that you need to make sure that you come home safe. You get stuck, this is on some big old tires, but when you're kind of got a more stock setup and you have a long wheelbase, it's easy to get high centered on things. So go with a buddy and have some tow points and some straps so you can get out of places. Out here in the West, we have a lot of sensitive habitats like cryptobiotic soil. It's real important that we're aware of what that is. Avoid those places the best you can. By doing that, that maintains our trail access through those places that have sensitive habitat. All right, guys, we're on Do Your Part. This is the last of the TREAD principles. Grab your trash bag, take a minute, pick up some of the trash that you see out here, and trust me, that goes a long way. Thanks, man. Appreciate you. You can find other ways that you can give back to public lands at treadlightly.org. Remember to follow the TREAD principles, travel responsibly, respect the rights of others, educate yourself, avoid sensitive areas, and do your part. We'll all continue to have public land access for years to come. Stay safe, have fun. We'll see you guys out there on the trail.
So our next speaker, Danielle Fowles-McNiven. I'm going to come over here because I don't remember all this. She got a Bachelor of Arts in Political Science and Government from the University of Utah. She worked as a grassroots legislative coordinator, education and training program manager for TREAD Lightly, and she is presently the assistant director of TREAD Lightly. TREAD Lightly is a proud partner of the BSA, and please welcome Danielle Fowles-McNiven.
Thank you, Scott. That was really nice. I really appreciate that. I love watching that video. We produced that in-house. TREAD Lightly, our staff actually shot and produced that video. And it's a really great intro. Thanks for putting that together, Scott. That was all Scott. He did that for me. So my name is Danielle Fowles-McNiven. I'm the Assistant Director at TREAD Lightly. I want to say thank you, first of all, for inviting me to be here today. I was talking to the Master Tread Trainer course that I taught the other day, and it's fun to be here with you because in January I will celebrate my 10th year with TREAD Lightly, and the very first course I ever did was at the Schiff Reservation on Long Island. Yeah, there's so many people here today from that course, and it's just fun. It's really fun to look back and think, geez, a decade. And my journey with TREAD Lightly as the Master Tread or the Tread Trainer Program Manager really started with the Scouts. So it's cool. It's a really cool opportunity to be here with you. Kind of look back on my time. When I started, I was coming out of a stint in Washington, D.C. With the American Motorcyclist Association. And as it says, I was the grassroots coordinator there. And I got the opportunity to work with their members on issues that were relevant to motorcycling. I got my degree in political science here at the University of Utah, but I had always been a power sports enthusiast. I loved motorcycles. I loved everything with engines. And it's just funny the way life works. I never thought in a million years I was going to be able to have a job that combined political science and power sports, but it happened. And it was through that job with the AMA that I kind of discovered my passion for public lands. A lot of the members with the AMA were very concerned about access to public lands and what they were losing, the opportunities that they were losing. And it was really very touching to speak to these people about how important it was to them. How not just the motorcycling, but just the importance public lands played in their lives. Many of these people, grew up, and that's how they experienced. That's how they grew the culture with their families, as they'd go camping or they'd go out on trails, on old Jeep trails or motorcycle trails with their grandparents, and to see the diminishing opportunities that they were having to take their kids and their grandkids out. It scared them, and it was a real concern for them, and it was very moving to me to see the passion that they had for that. And so I appreciated DC, but I didn't want to live there for the rest of my life. When I had the opportunity to come back to Utah, be closer to my family, and still do something that I loved, I jumped at that opportunity. And that's how I started at Tread Lightly. I was trying to implement a conservation program into the AMA's state chapters, and I was introduced to Tread Lightly, and then this opportunity came available. So I came home, so to speak, and I got to continue doing what I love. The relationship between the Scouts and Tread Lightly, I think, is a really special one. Technically it started because the Scouts integrated an ATV program into your organization, and you were looking for a way to speak to responsible use of those vehicles on public land. And lucky for me, I'm the one who was responsible for the education arm, and so I got to jump in with you right from day one, really, literally, to help integrate our programming and our education efforts into what you were doing. And it's a really important thing. People experience the outdoors in so many ways, so many different ways. And as long as we're all being respectful and responsible, I think that there's a place for almost any activity on public lands when you're acting in an appropriate way. And I thought it was really great that the Scouts made a special effort to integrate an ethic into those programs. That's what the Scouts are all about, is that ethic and responsibility and giving back. And so it's ingrained into your culture just as it is into ours. So I've always really appreciated the interaction that we've had with the organization. To give you a little bit of background, some of you may not be as familiar with Tread Lightly. So we were actually started as a message by the Forest Service in 1985. The Forest Service wanted a way to speak directly to motorized users about responsible use. We were, at that time, there were three-wheelers. Remember three-wheelers getting really popular on Forest Service lands. And the Forest Service took a look around and said, we want people in the outdoors, but we need a way to manage this, to speak to these users so they know how to maintain these places and keep them open. So the Forest Service actually developed Tread Lightly as a message. And through a number of incidents with some corporations, I'm sure you all agree with me that sometimes the advertisements that you see for power sports or even just trucks that you drive on the highway or use to go get your groceries or whatever, sometimes those advertisements aren't the most environmentally friendly looking things. And so some corporations were having a little bit of a PR moment, and they approached the Forest Service and wanted to purchase the message. And the Forest Service, I think, had great forethought in recognizing the value of that message and instead spun it off into a nonprofit organization. So Tread Lightly as an organization was born in 1990. And since then, our mission has been to promote responsible use of motorized vehicles on public lands through education and stewardship projects. And really what that means is we're here to serve you and the general public as an education source, a source to come to figure out, how do I do this specific activity in a respectful way? How do I teach others to participate in this activity in a respectful, responsible way? And then the other side of what we do is our conservation arm, where we actually raise funds. We have corporate partners. Some of those exact partners that led to the creation of our organization, they donate money to the organization, and we go out and work with our federal partners and state partners, BLM, National Park Service, Forest Service, Utah State Parks, all different types of land management agencies, to find projects that need to be completed on public lands, and then we recruit volunteers to go out and do that work. And I love both sides of that. One side is really to prevent the other side. You know, we want to educate people so that we're minimizing impacts to the places where we like to recreate. And the other side is, you know, public lands comes with maintenance and management needs, especially in today's climate. There's so many people on public lands, and we're so grateful for that. How awesome is it to live in a place like the United States, where we have unprecedented access to public lands? You can't get access to public lands like this really anywhere else in the world. And we're privileged. We truly are privileged to experience the outdoors in that way, in ways that we want to determine how to do it, right? If I want to go rock climbing, I can go rock climbing. I can go rock climbing 10, 15 minutes from here. If I want to go fishing, angling, hunting, off-roading, whatever it is I want to do, like, I have access to that, especially in a beautiful place like Utah. But it comes, you know, it comes with responsibility, and it comes with, I think, a need for the public in general to understand this doesn't just magically happen. Well, I've had several things stated to me over the years that kind of blew my mind. One that always sticks out is, I remember I was talking about, you know, what I do for a living and how we do conservation projects, and sometimes that means, you know, doing litter cleanups, sometimes it means building fences or putting up signs, and the person I was speaking to was like, well, why do you have to pick up trash? That's the Forest Service job. And I was blown away, you know, because they didn't mean any malice by it. They just literally did not know that the Forest Service is not a garbage service. That's not what they're there to do. They thought that that's what the nature of the Forest Service was. And I had the opportunity to educate that person about, you know, think about it. You've got literally thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of acres to maintain, and these days maybe one or two guys, you know, one or two people, I should say, who have the responsibility to manage that area. It's impossible. And, you know, it was very insightful for that person, but also for me, because it takes you back to, like, people really don't know this stuff, you know? And we're here, we have the opportunity to interface with people in a really meaningful way that can make a huge difference. You know, when I started with Tread Lightly, and even with the AMA, power sports was experiencing a rapid increase in use, just an explosion really of popularity. And then the pandemic hit, and everybody needed something, you know. Everybody needed an outlet. Everybody wanted to have some way to have a release, and they turned to the outdoors, which is telling, you know. People feel that need to be in the outdoors and connect with nature, get out there and kind of recenter, and they turned to the outdoors. And it put great, like, everybody loved it, and we were all really excited to see that kind of reconnection with nature, but it put a huge stress and demand on an already stressed infrastructure. Our Forest Service partners, our partners at the BLM, all land management agencies were already what I like to refer to as under-resourced in just about every single way. You know, they don't have enough people, they don't have time, they don't have money. Over 50% of the Forest Service budget is spent on fire mitigation. 50%. So every year, right off the top, you can count half your dollars right out the door just putting out catastrophic wildfires or trying to prevent them. And what does that leave for those trails? You know, you still have to pay people. I mean, right now the Forest Service is experiencing something like that that's pretty intense, you know, where they've had to cut back on hiring in an already stressed environment. So what does that mean for us? You know, as people who really advocate for access to the outdoors and are regular users, what can we do to help those partners? And in effect, what can we do to help ourselves, right? I mean, it's not just about, it is about helping them do their jobs and being partners with them. I have had very meaningful opportunities to actually open trails back up. It's timely. The first airline flight I took after the pandemic had happened was a project that I went to in Colorado on 9/11. Oddly enough, I was on a flight that day and went to Colorado, and we got to do some trail work that opened up a trail that had been closed for 10 years because of an avalanche slide, and there just hadn't been anybody there was nothing wrong with the trail except it was blocked by, you know, huge tons of trees that needed to be sawed down and taken apart and gotten out of the way. And I got to be a part of that project. It was so cool to see the real impact people and companies and, you know, nonprofit organizations can have. This is a place that many people in the Buena Vista community had really, really enjoyed and hadn't had access to for over a decade. And I got to be a part of the crew who went in there and parted the sea, so to speak, and let those people back up to the lake and on that beautiful path. And it was such a meaningful, cool experience because I knew that there are people who were going to be on that trail who were going to find out that that trail was open again and be like, what? I haven't been up there for 10 years and now I get to take my kid, now I get to take my grandkid, we get to go camp up there and fish, and they were going to be so excited to just be able to get that place back. And I got to be a part of that, which was really, really cool. And I think that all of us get to be a part of that in our endeavors, like your endeavors with the Scouts, my efforts with Tread Lightly. We really get to impact people in such a meaningful way. And it's very cool. I wanted to spend a little bit of time also talking about, and it's already been brought up to me today, talking about the messages that we use and kind of the ways that we implement the things that we do to get to the end means of what we're trying to do. So Tread Lightly is a message that was developed specifically for motorized users and for a very specific reason. Leave No Trace was developed for the exact same purpose except for a different audience. And so I see it, I see it all the time, I get asked about it all the time. Like, Leave No Trace and Tread Lightly are both appropriate messages for your organization, and I want you to use them both. I want you to use them in a way that's appropriate and meaningful for the people that you're speaking to. You know, there's no, I said it in the Master Trainer course the other day, and I've said it in basically every course I've ever taught. We're not competitors, we're sisters, you know? And so you determine, as instructors and educators, you determine what message is best for your audience and what they're going to respond to. And I would just ask you, you know, keep in mind, these messages were developed for very specific reasons, you know, for very specific audiences. So implement the one that makes sense for your audience, and don't worry about the other stuff. Like, just do what you need to do. You know, we're here as a resource for you. We're here as a message to help supplement the things that you're doing and help people understand the importance. And sometimes those people like speak different languages, and they want to hear one message. One message is going to make sense to one audience and another. So don't stress over that. That's not a thing that you need to worry about. Use both messages as you need to and see fit. That's what we're here for, as a resource for you. And we're, tread lightly, happy to provide that resource for you. So, we have 15 employees now. When I started, we had 6. We were all here in Utah, and in just the last 4 years, we've more than doubled our staff. So no matter where you are in the country now, we have somebody who's dedicated to help you and help you meet the needs of your clients or audience or scouts, wherever you might be. So we have someone on the ground in California, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, Wyoming. Our new executive director is in Colorado. And then we have a program manager in Michigan who covers the northeast part of the United States, and a program manager in South Carolina who manages the southeast United States. So we have someone dedicated to your area to help you and to engage with you, and that could mean in a number of different ways. If you need help putting together a tread trainer course or an awareness course, if you need help, you want to know how you can get involved and go out and do a promotion and put up a table and talk to people about Tread Lightly. If that means you want to get your hands literally dirty and go out and dig a hole and put a kiosk up, you have a group of volunteers, which I'm sure you all do, that want to get involved in that kind of maintenance and conservation work, then we can do that. We can do that for you and help you figure out how to go about putting those plans together and actually implement and execute those projects. So I don't even know how long I've been talking, but I did want to leave some time for questions, and I'm going to just make sure I didn't miss anything that I wanted to touch on. But I'll just, I guess, conclude my statements and comments by, going back to that video. So the gentleman that was talking most in the video, his name's Evan Robbins. He trained me to be the master tread trainer, the tread trainer program instructor and program manager. So we've worked together for a long time. It's so fun. He's got such a great personality. It's so fun to see him on camera talking about something that's so important to him personally. He grew up here in the Wasatch Front. He's an avid outdoorsman, an off-roader, and I think in watching that video you can really see the dedication and enthusiasm that not just he but our staff has for the work that we do. And we're so proud and really, really appreciative of the relationship that we've had with the Scouts and how we've been able to interact with you. The relationship that we share, and we're really, as I said, we're really here to be a resource to you. We're really here to help you touch the lives and improve the access that we have to these places that we all enjoy. So if you have, again, any inkling you want to get involved, you don't know how, that's what we're here for. That's literally why we are here, is to help you. So, please don't hesitate to reach out and ask how we can help you help yourselves in the work that you're doing, because it's so important. Dave?
Yeah, so along those lines, what's the best way to kind of make contact? Is it call the headquarters? Or?
No, do not call the headquarters. No, don't do that. And I'll tell you why, because even though we've doubled, thank you for the question, I really appreciate it. So do not call that number. We have, if it's your last resort, then don't not call, but that shouldn't be your first. So the best way is just a mess, like the phone, I don't know, it's 2024 and phones have been around for so long, but for some reason we just haven't been able to get a system that works really well for us. So I would say if you want to get involved, the best resource is always the website. Go to the About Us portion of the Tread Lightly website, and all of our program managers are listed, and all of their email addresses are right there for you. Email's the best first contact. In a way, we're blessed. We have a lot going on. There's really no such thing as a downtime for us anymore, because when it gets too cold to go on the trails in Colorado, our Arizona staff that's when they get to go out, So we don't really have a downtime anymore, because if we're not like actively doing stuff on the trails, then we're planning for the next year. So what I mean to say by all of that is our staff is very often out of the office, and like literally on the trail doing work. And so send an email, and if someone doesn't get back to you, I mean, you should get a "Hi, I'm out of the office doing incredible things on the trails" message, and I'll call you when I get back. If you don't get that, then I would suggest always copying our office administrator. Her name's Kirsten Jordan, and she's on the website as well. Copy her so that she can, what's that called? Not delegate, you know what I'm trying to say. She can get your message to the person who's going to be next best to help. But yeah, the number is, you'll end up I hate phone trees. They're the worst thing ever. You end up in a phone tree, and I don't know if you ever get out of there. So don't call the number first. Bill.
I have to stand up.
Yeah, no problem. You want this?
I don't need that, do I? I spoke last night, Danielle, and I didn't get to say everything, so now I'm going to say one more thing. One of the things I challenged you all was to get out into your community and get out of our box and go do things. And the best place I was able to do that is with Tread Lightly. I was hanging out Tread Lightly when she arrived.
It's true.
I'm a life member of Tread Lightly, and Evan and I have done a lot of things together. I've done a lot of things with Danielle. She's right. In the beginning, we were one of their big customers, and they have always been absolutely responsive. And so, not recently, because I've been semi-retired, but they had, for the field, they had volunteers. And they said, "Bill, would you be the Northern California coordinator for Tread Lightly?" And so I went outside the BSA. What it brought to us is Brendan Carnes from the Land Rover Association. And he came in and took a tread. So we ended up teaching Tread Lightly not only to our scouts, but the guy who runs the motorbikes in the area. And now he's also teaching, along with his motorbike teaching Tread Lightly. Brent Carnes then invited us to go down to Coast State Park to set up a booth while he was having the Northern California Land Rover Association show up. And every time I would do something like that, they would say, "What do you need, Bill? What can we send you?" And they have always been responsive. If you don't have the resources for all the hang tags and the booklets, I mean, they don't have an unending supply, but if they know you're getting the message out, they take care of you, and we really thank you. And I'm sorry I haven't done as much recently, but when I challenge you to get out of the box, Tread Lightly is one of them, where you can bring Tread Lightly to some of those other communities in your community.
Thank you, Bill.
Sorry.
I appreciate, no, I really appreciate Bill's comments. He is telling you the truth. Like I can remember being at my desk, and I started getting emails from several people who are in this room. I mean, just like in the very first week, Bill, Howie back there. I mean, there are people who have been advocates for Tread Lightly, Keith. I mean, literally since the day that I started. It's so cool to still have those connections. And Bill brings up a good point, you know. I mean, he says he's semi-retired, which you should never admit that, because people will immediately put you to work. I don't know why people say, oh, like volunteer that information, because they're like, oh, you've got time. That's what I hear is you've got time. But you know, tread lightly is one of those things that, and I think you see it in like so many different facets of just everyday life. You go through something, you like get really involved, you get really excited about it, you're really engaged, and then you get pregnant, or your kid starts a different phase of life, or whatever happens, and it kind of just falls off, because you've got other priorities, and that's good and normal. And I get calls, people will be like, oh, I'm sorry. They apologize, which is so sweet. They're sorry, I haven't been able to do this for a long time, but I really want to do this again. Can I? And yes, the answer is always yes. Like, please do. Like, if we are a volunteer-based organization, we cannot survive without the work and like literally the sweat equity and the efforts that you all put in. So we want you to be involved. We want to help you do what you're doing. There's only, like I said, when I started there was 6, but there's still only like 14 of us. That's not very many. But there's thousands of you, So if we can help you accomplish your goals and the things that you're doing, we want to do that because we believe in this message and we want it to get out. It doesn't do any good sitting on the shelf, right? Yes?
Danielle, I was in your first class back in...
You sure were.
I took ATV at our camp just one time the next summer because I felt that I'm a tread lightly master trainer. I should at least know how to drive. So I haven't ridden in 10 years, and they asked me to be the ATV instructor at our camp this last summer. So I had to go to training in Summit, and there were 6 of us in our class. And the one thing that saved me was knowing tread lightly. One of the 54 questions I had to answer was, what was tread lightly? Nobody in my class knew. I repeated the 5 principles. I gave your mission statement, and he said, oh, did you find that on our website? This is the ATV Safety Institution. I said, no, I'm a tread lightly master educator, trainer. And I wasn't very good on an ATV, okay? I had a mistake in my final class, but what saved me was that I knew more about tread lightly than anybody else, and nobody in my class knew what tread lightly was. And at the end of every single session I have in camp, I turn around and I say, play hard, you clean. We have to clean our ATVs. I make them clean their ATVs. And then I tell them, you have to respect the land and you have to respect wherever you take your ATVs. And it's surprising how many people have not heard about tread lightly. And I'm still spreading your word.
Thank you. That's so awesome. Thanks for being willing to do that. That's not an uncommon look. So it's not uncommon. It's not uncommon that people don't know what tread lightly is. It pains me to say that, of course, but I've had people in the Forest Service tell me that they don't know what tread lightly is, and they created tread lightly. So, I mean, it's fine, right? And I'm so glad that thank goodness, right? Because now there are people, the other 5 people who went through the training, and they're like, oh, there's this resource that I have, and now you are a resource to those people, and that's great. See, I talked about in the Master Tread Trainer course the other day, you may never see the tree of the seed that you planted. But I get to see it. Like, how cool is that, right? Like, that's so awesome. Thank you for doing that. That's why it's a perfect example of why we need our volunteers. Because you all have access to audiences and people that I will never speak to, ever, never meet, but you have direct connection with them, and you have the ability to help spread that message and be an ambassador. And it's not just about being an ambassador of Tread Lightly. I mean, I love that, and I want you to be that, but it really is an ambassador, an advocate for responsible outdoor recreation, which is so important. the work, I mean, I've already said it 3 times, I think. The work that we do is so impactful, and it can be hard because you really do never know, like, am I really even making a difference? Like, does this matter? You know? And then I hear a story like that, or see Bill at a conference, or, you know, any number of places, and I'm like, I've had people come up to me, you know, at events that we attend, industry stuff, and they're like, you don't remember me, but, you know, I attended this conference and you were there, and that's where I heard about Tread Lightly. And now I implement it, and I go to my kids' school and they have a conservation day, and I set up a Tread Lightly booth. And the very first thing that I say is, did you report it? I mean, totally in jest, but not really. Report it, guys. but yeah, I mean, it's fun, and I'm so glad that you did that, and thank you for continuing to be an ambassador. We really appreciate that.
What percentage of your educational material or efforts is around boats and motorized and then conservation work? Have you done any big projects with boating or scuba?
So that actually came up this course that we held just a couple of days ago, and I will tell you, we do have educational messaging for motorized boating and PWCs, personal watercraft, like wave runners and jet skis and those fun things that we get to use. It's not our most popular line of education, but definitely an underserved community when it comes to recreation. It's something that I've wanted to kind of turn our focus to, well, I shouldn't say turn our focus, but definitely include and kind of bolster the ethics messaging for that type of recreation. I live in Wyoming now, and just about a month and a half ago was in a meeting with the state park staff and some of the other outdoor recreation, they have collaborative groups in different parts of the state. And I learned that most of the recreation dollars, this blows my mind, most of the recreation dollars that come into the system in Wyoming are from boating. Blew my mind, I had no idea. But it's a great example, you know, I mean, and I should say this too, because this came up in the course, and I think people overlook this. How did that boat get in the water? Somebody drove it to the lake and put it in the water with their truck. And I like to point this out because I would guarantee that there are people in this room who don't consider themselves motorized enthusiasts. Like, you're like, this doesn't apply to me. I don't ride an ATV, I don't drive a UTV, I don't go rock crawling. But do you drive to a trailhead and go on a hike? Do you take your family camping and pull a fifth wheel out into the forest and go camping or fishing? Do you hunt? Like, if you are using a motorized vehicle to access the places that you like to recreate, to do the end thing that you're gonna do, you are a motorized user. And so keep that in mind. I don't wanna get too like policy driven, but keep that in mind. Like, you may not be an off-roader, but you are a motorized user, I almost guarantee it. You don't fall out of your back door and land in the place where you're gonna camp for the weekend, right? You've gotta get there somehow, and you probably, maybe some of you do. Some of you are very hardcore, like maybe some of you actually hike with a backpack from your door and go camp somewhere, but that's not how your typical outdoor recreationist does it. So keep that in mind, because you are part of this fold. You may not realize it, but you are. I was answering another question. Boating. So, going back to boating. So, we have a memorandum of understanding with the federal agencies to be the motorized ethics provider. So, literally, the federal agencies say, I need a message to give to people about whatever machine has a motor on it. Tread Lightly is that message that is meant to be used for those purposes. That includes motorized aquatic activities, and we would love an opportunity to work Sea Scouts. someone in your organization, and I am embarrassed to say the name is not coming to me again, who has wanted to get Tread Lightly more involved in Sea Scouts, and we just haven't had the capacity to like dive in. But now I have somebody, a program manager, that I could like have help. So yes, we would love to be involved in that. One of our federal partners is the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, but certainly the Tread Lightly message applies to that type of recreation, and we would be happy. I mean, as far as percentage-wise, when you ask what's the percentage of materials, it's not high, but we do have it, and it's underutilized for sure. Yeah.
About reporting, you mentioned reporting, and I know personally I've always submitted all of my reports.
Of course you have. Yes, of course.
Just, yeah, exactly. Right. Always within 2 weeks. But just can you talk about that a little bit if people are not familiar?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I think there's a bunch of people who at least picked up some brochures and might talk to a bunch of scouts. How do they tell you about that?
Thank you. Yeah. So the best way you can report.
I'm calling you on the phone, right?
Call me up. Get into that phone tree. Really enjoy it. You know, take hold of that experience. On our website, there is the Tread Trainer page on our website. It's under Education Programs, and then Tread Trainer. And on that page, there's a reporting form that you can use. It is very, very simple, very straightforward. It only takes a couple of minutes. There's also, so you can do that. I mean, you can literally do that in like 3 minutes. It doesn't take a long time. That form that you fill out, if you are, well, even if you're not a member, the information from that form goes directly into our membership database. That's where we house everything. And so once a quarter, I go in there and I do this really fun thing of sorting data and building a report to send back out to our partners who fund our programs and say, look at all the people who have been participating across the nation. And that's where we get that information, is from our volunteer reports. If you're not reporting it, I don't know that it's going on. Nobody does. So it's really important to us to have thank you for bringing it up. It's really important for us to have those reports, because that's how I go back to Onyx or Utah State Parks or whoever it is and say, look how many education courses have happened. Look how many people have seen this message. So website, always probably the best first resource. And then, you know, I mean, I still get email reporting. I still get emails from people that are like, I did this thing and went to this place and talked to these people. It's not ideal because it's harder for me to track long term, but I will take those emails, absolutely.
I will say that, I don't know, quarterly or however often you send out the, like, did you do anything recently?
Quarterly, try to.
Really helpful, so thank you.
Oh, good, I'm glad. Yeah, that's like that doesn't happen automated, like I actually have to go in there and send that email. So thank you for reporting. I saw someone, yes.
Yeah, well, do you have a relationship with the U.S. Coast Guard? That's what we've used in the past for boating. Their training programs for both sailboats and motorized craft.
We do not have a formal relationship with the Coast Guard. Who was it? Are you here? Yes. What's the name of the group? Power Squadron. So I was given a wonderful resource to reach out to another organization about working and establishing a relationship with the Coast Guard through the Power Squadron. Yes, and so that's something we're going to be looking into. But no, as of right now, and I had never even heard of the Power Squadron, so I was really thankful for that tip.
I think Pete Herring is the guy in Mobile Health.
Pete Herring. Yes, it is Pete Herring. Thank you. The Sea Scouts. That man is so patient. He has talked to me about it so many times, and I'm like, yes, I would love to do it, and then can't because
We had
I've.
a session at our last conference too about that.
Perfect. Yeah, Pete Herring. Thank you. Yes.
Are you familiar with the Colorado Mountain Club's RIMS program?
Say it again.
The RIMS program, I think I pulled it up. The Colorado Mountain Club has this program for volunteers when they're out in public lands to report issues. whether the issues are the signs are not right or there's something in the road and it's an electronic recording that goes through them to the park rangers to fix whatever it is. And it's an all volunteer thing. I put it on mine even though I'm not in Colorado because it's a public land thing. And I don't know if you know about it, but I'm certainly going to give you the information.
I would appreciate. No, I've never heard about that. Let me speak to this just a little bit. There are so many awesome, really awesome things happening in the outdoor industry. I mean, what an amazing time we live in, and just like the technological developments and everything that's going on is really quite mind-blowing. And I know that there are probably several people in this room who use trail mapping apps and, you know, whatever it might be. It could be Onyx, it could be Avenza, it could be Gaia, it could be All Trails. I mean, there's, I think, literally a dozen of them. I really appreciate the work that those groups are doing, because they're, again, you get to a point where your local Forest Service ranger just, they don't know. They don't know what's going on out there. You know, I mean, I literally know people who know the trails better than their Forest Service person, because their Forest Service person doesn't have the opportunity to even get out there. You know, so again, the work that recreationists do in a volunteer capacity to help keep trails open, keep them maintained, report issues, whatever those might be, is invaluable, I think, to groups like mine and of course the agencies. I would really appreciate that if you would share that with me. That's great. And you know, use those resources to the best of your ability and to their capacity if you can. There's some very, very sophisticated stuff. But I will also say this, be careful with that data. Several partners that we have are focused on this and are getting much, much better. But there's an opportunity for people to contribute to those apps and say, I was on this trail or I was on this trail. You know, just make sure, again, educate yourself, tread principle, educate yourself. Make sure that when you're using things like that, that you're very conscious of whether that place that you are in is actually a designated trail. Because, you know, lots of people will go out, and it's hard. It's hard. You know, people will go out, they're on what they think is a trail. It looks like a trail, smells like a trail, like all that kind of stuff. But it's actually a user-created trail. And you know, people have the opportunity to add these places into these apps, and so then when somebody's like, oh, there's a trail right over here, I can see it, I get to go on it, but it's not actually a designated trail. So those apps are so cool and they're so helpful, and there's so many different ways you can use them, but you still need to be careful with that and just be cognizant. You know, it's still your responsibility as a user to know where you are and know what's legal and open for use, and sometimes that data can be a little bit misleading. So keep an MVUM, motorized vehicle use map with you, so you know where you can and can't be. But those apps are incredible. Somebody is a smart kid and put that together. I don't know who that guy is, but man, those things are so awesome. Are there any other questions? Is it? Did I go over time? You guys, thanks for being here. Like, you all started coming in and sitting down. I was like, oh, I'm gonna have like an audience in here. That's awesome. Thanks so much for coming and listening to me and you know, giving me the opportunity to speak to you about this program that I care about so much, and for being a part of it. Like, I really appreciate you having me here and being a part of this, and thank you again, Keith. Keith is the reason I'm here. So thanks, Keith. Like, he put the Master Tread Trainer course together for us. He's been pushing for it since last year, I think, for a long time. And so I really appreciate your efforts individually to have me here, because I wouldn't have known.
Take this as my report.
Danielle, our conference chair, Kathy Mills, would like to say thank you.
On behalf of the planning committee, we really do appreciate you coming and helping us with that training as well, just being a resource and a support for us.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you
I really
so much.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Great, thank you, Danielle.